You might think the stunning peaks of the Wasatch Front are the only thing reaching dizzying heights in this state. But the housing market here has officially climbed too high and is now teetering on the edge of a massive cliff. Just like its neighbor to the east, Utah is beginning to show the exact same fracture lines that sent the Colorado market into a tailspin. If you are currently holding property or looking to buy, you are standing directly in the path of the avalanche. The days of bidding wars and waiving inspections are dead. They've been replaced by a cold reality where sellers are slashing prices just to get a single showing. We are seeing inventory pile up in driveways from Logan to St. George as the affordability crisis finally breaks the back of the local economy. What's terrifying is that the data points we are uncovering today are not just minor corrections, they are signals of a deep structural reset that could wipe out equity faster than a winter storm closes a canyon pass. You need to pay close attention to the #1 city on this list because it was once considered the untouchable golden child of the West. And now it is leading the race to the bottom with numbers that are frankly unbelievable. A story you'll want to follow closely by staying subscribed. Before we pull onto the interstate to inspect the damage. Number 10. Logan. As you drive north into the darker corners of the Cache Valley, the isolation that once made Logan a charming escape is now turning into an economic trap for homeowners. This college town, heavily reliant on the university ecosystem, is finding out the hard way that student demand cannot prop up inflated asset prices forever. The market here is experiencing a sharp freeze that feels remarkably similar to what we saw in Fort Collins, Colorado, just a few months ago. You can feel the shift in the air as for sale signs that used to vanish in a weekend are now weathering through the seasons. I spoke to a realtor in Logan recently who told me they've dropped their price 3 times in 60 days and haven't had a single person walk through the front door. Not one. According to data released by the Utah Association of Realtors, the inventory of unsold homes in this area has surged by nearly 40% year over year. This has created a glut of supply that the local population simply cannot absorb. The median sales price, which skyrocketed during the pandemic buying frenzy, has taken a significant hit, with reports showing a decline of roughly 8% from its peak. This isn't just a seasonal dip, it is a fundamental rejection of current pricing by buyers who are tapped out. The absorption rate has climbed to over 4 months, signaling a transition into a buyer's market that sellers are refusing to acknowledge. Local builders are panicking as well, with permit data showing a 25% drop in single-family construction starts. They know the buyers aren't coming. Perhaps most concerning is the price-to-income ratio in Cache County, which Federal Reserve data suggests is now hovering near 6. In a rural economy, a home costing 6 times the average annual income is a mathematical impossibility for the local workforce. Homes are lingering for an average of 52 days, and with price cuts on 30% of active listings, Logan is a town waking up from a fever dream with a very painful hangover. Number 9. South Jordan. Heading south into the heart of the Salt Lake Valley, you arrive in South Jordan, a city that became the poster child for suburban expansion and master plan living. For years, the developments here, especially around the Daybreak community, were the hottest tickets in the state. But that hype has curdled into a serious liability. The problem here is density combined with generic inventory. When every house on the street looks the same and 5 of them are for sale, the only way to compete is to lower your price. You are looking at a classic supply-side crash where the sheer volume of available units is drowning out demand. The numbers coming out of South Jordan are staggering. Zillow data indicates that the percentage of listings with a price cut has reached nearly 35%. That means 1 in 3 sellers is desperate enough to slash their equity just to attract a buyer. The median days on market has more than doubled, jumping from 20 days to over 45. Investors who bought rental properties here expecting easy cash flow are now facing vacancy rates that have crept up to 7%. One investor told me his passive income dream turned into a $1,200 monthly deficit because he can't find a tenant to cover the 2024 mortgage rate. What is even more shocking is the foreclosure activity. While still low historically, early-stage delinquency rates in this zip code have ticked up by 12% in the last quarter alone. High HOA fees combined with inflated mortgage payments are pushing families to the brink. With a median price still near $600,000, South Jordan is a bloated market with too many houses and not enough qualified buyers to save it. Number 8. Lehi. Continuing your drive along the tech corridor, often called Silicon Slopes, you pull into Lehi. This city was supposed to be the economic fortress of Utah, fueled by high-paying tech jobs and endless venture capital money. However, the tech sector has taken a beating, and the housing market here is reacting with a violent correction. The arrogance of the tech boom, the belief that workers would endlessly pay $750,000 for a tract home near a freeway, has been shattered. You can see the shift as you drive past massive office parks seeing lower occupancy. This correlates directly with softening housing demand. Data from the Wasatch Front regional MLs paints a grim picture. The median sales price has dropped by nearly 10% year over year. Active listings have exploded, up 55%, as tech workers facing layoffs or return-to-office mandates elsewhere rush to sell. The average list price to sale price ratio has dropped to 97%. But that doesn't even account for the $20,000 in closing cost concessions sellers are quietly handing over under the table. In a shocking turn, data from Realtor.com shows that Lehi now has one of the highest rates of back-on-market listings in the state at 15%. Contracts are falling through because buyers either can't qualify or realize they're catching a falling knife. With a 10-month supply of new construction homes sitting on the books, Lehi is a tech-fueled bubble bursting in slow motion. Number 7. Haramman. As you push further west into the foothills, you reach Haramman, a place that represents the absolute worst of urban sprawl and speculative building. Haramman is essentially a sea of townhomes and dense single-family lots sold to people who could barely afford them 2 years ago. Now, with property taxes adjusting upward and inflation eating away at disposable income, this city is becoming ground zero for distressed sales. The statistics here are alarming. According to county records, the number of notice of defaults filed in Haramman has increased by 18% over the last 6 months. Inventory levels are catastrophic, having risen by 60% year over year. It feels like every other house has a sign in the yard. A homeowner here told me they feel like they're in a race to the bottom against the big builders. How can an individual compete when a billion-dollar builder offers a 4.9% rate buydown? The median home price has softened by 7%, but the real story is in the concessions. Local title company data suggests that nearly 60% of all closed transactions in Haramman now involve the seller paying for the buyer's closing costs, averaging roughly $10,000 per deal. This is a hidden price crash that doesn't show up in the headline numbers, masking the true level of equity erosion. Days on market have stretched to 60 days, and the rental vacancy rate has spiked to 9%. Haramman was a boomtown, but it's rapidly turning into a ghost town of unsold inventory. Number 6. Eagle Mountain. If you keep driving west until the horizon is nothing but sagebrush and dust, you end up in Eagle Mountain. This is the classic drive until you qualify market. History teaches us these are always the first to crash and the last to recover. When the only reason you bought a home was that it was the only thing left, you've already lost. During the frenzy, people flocked here for a patch of dirt. But now, with volatile gas prices and return to office mandates, the commute has become a financial nightmare. The deterioration here is the most severe in terms of volume. Inventory has exploded by 115%, more than double the supply sitting stagnant. Entire streets are sitting empty, collecting dust. Consequently, the median sale price has taken a 14% hit from its peak. A truly shocking statistic from CoreLogic indicates that nearly 6% of homeowners in this zip code are now in a negative equity position. They owe the bank more than the house is worth. The months of supply has ballooned to over 7 months, placing Eagle Mountain firmly in a deep buyer's market. The list-to-sale price ratio is a dismal 95%, meaning sellers are losing 5% off the top just to close a deal. Local building permit data shows a 60% drop, proving that developers have realized there is zero demand left. Eagle Mountain is stranded on an island of depreciation, and the bridge back to safety has been burned. Number 5. Ogden. Swinging back north to the historic rail hub, you arrive in Ogden. This city was the gritty alternative to the capital, offering affordability for the working class. However, during the boom, investors descended on Ogden like locusts, flipping bungalows and driving prices to levels local wages could never support. Now, the investors are fleeing, and the local workforce is priced out. The data for Ogden is particularly troubling because it impacts the most vulnerable demographic. According to Atom Data Solutions, this area has seen a 24% increase in foreclosure starts, the highest rate of distress among the major cities on this tour. The median home price has fallen by 8% as demand evaporates. I've seen fix and flip projects in Ogden sitting 75% finished because the investor realized the end value won't even cover the construction loan. The number of cash buyers has dropped by 50%. The smart money has packed up and left. Inventory of homes priced under $400,000 has actually increased by 60%, which sounds like good news until you realize that at 7% interest, even a cheap home is unaffordable for the average resident. With 30% of listings seeing price reductions, Ogden is returning to its roots, but the transition is causing massive financial pain for those who bought into the hype. Number 2. Heber City. Now you drive up the canyon to reach Heber City. For years, this was the affordable alternative to Park City. Then the pandemic happened, and Heber became the epicenter of the Zoomtown explosion. Prices doubled overnight. The rapid appreciation here was built on sand, and the tide is coming in fast. Now that the remote work boom has busted, Heber City is facing a luxury crash that rivals Aspen or Vail. The fall from grace is breathtaking. The median sales price has plummeted by nearly 17% from the peak. That is a massive loss of value. Nearly $150,000 in equity evaporated in a single year for the average homeowner. Inventory of homes priced over $1 million has surged by 80%. There are simply no buyers left at these price points. Days on market is now averaging over 90 days. Construction data shows that new custom home starts have frozen, down 65%. The tradespeople are leaving. A shocking statistic, the percentage of homes sold with cash has dropped from 50% to 18%. The wealthy cash buyers have moved on, leaving local sellers chasing the market down with price cuts averaging $60,000 per reduction. Heber City is the canary in the coal mine, and it is gasping for air. Number 1. St. George. Finally, you drive all the way south to the Red Rocks of St. George. This is the end of the road, and unfortunately, it is the site of the worst market correction in the entire state. St. George was the ultimate pandemic destination, a trifecta of warm weather, retirement haven, and vacation rental paradise. But that trifecta has turned into a perfect storm of disaster. The market here is flooded with second homes that owners can no longer afford to carry, and vacation rentals sitting empty due to oversaturation. St. George is leading the crash because it is a discretionary market. Nobody needs to live here for a job. They choose to. And right now, nobody is choosing it. The numbers are an absolute catastrophe. Inventory has exploded by 130%. The median sales price is down nearly 18%, the largest drop on our list. The absorption rate has climbed to 8 months, placing St. George in a recessionary environment. AirDNA data shows that vacation rental revenue is down 35%, forcing investors to dump properties onto a market that doesn't want them. Foreclosure filings are up 30%, and 85% of homes are selling below asking price. St. George went from the hottest market in the country to a frozen wasteland of equity destruction, a trend you'll want to follow as this unfolds by staying subscribed.